Okay, I think we're ready. First of all, thank you for joining us during this fifth session in English of our project. My name is Julio Anaya, and my
And
friend.
hello, this is Omar Bermudez. Thank you for joining us today again.
Today we will be talking about referee the defense, but before coming to the session itself, remember we will be writing on the chat that if you have any inconvenience with the platform, with the video or with the audio, you can refresh the site and get inside again. So let's start. I will share right here. Okay. Today our topic is referee the defense as a key to keep the consistency. We have talked the first two, some external information about preparation and constancy, sorry. Then we talk about technical fouls and we interact with a coach. Last week we got the session about timeouts and how to manage them with guests, and today we'll be talking about referee the defense. So the first question we always have to everybody you will have on the chat section is how are you related to basketball? So just to know if you're a referee, a coach, a player, or you are another member of the basketball as a manager, fan, or any other spot. So you can start practicing. Those who are new with us can start participating on the poll, and we will be having this poll interaction throughout the session. So I think we are 100% referees. It is always, or we encourage you to, when you got the link, share with all your sport community, including coaches, including players, because it is always important for them to know what are we talking about the plays that they perform by themselves on the court. So we will be talking about personal foul, the first area. Then we will talk about how the rule explain the cylinder principle, the legal guarding position, and the principle of verticality. And after we got that concept, then we will talk about how to put those concepts inside the court as we make the decision to keep the consistency. So the second question we will have on you, and this type of question we have on all our sessions, is which is the element inside the referee's preparation that is more related to the concept of referee the defense, remembering those points we talked during our first session about preparation. So what do you think, or where do you think this concept of referee the defense fits the most? To remember, it's important your participation is a way to have you connected with the session. Omar, what do you think about this question? What is your answer?
I'm agreeing with the 62% today on technical preparation. This is something that we need to. So we will be learning and improving game by game about where we need to see to referee properly the defense.
Okay, I also agree. Technical preparation and how we prepare, have the concept clear, and then try to match this concept with the IoTs and mechanics to have a good decision-making process on the court. So let's move on. Okay, now we will begin the session. The first thing we will talk about is about personal fouls. What is a personal foul? We know that the contact situations are one of the most difficult areas to referee during the game. That's why we are there. And when we talk about personal fouls, we got 2 points to consider. The first is that an illegal contact needs to occur. And when we talk about illegal contact, the rules set us what are the types of illegal contact. The rules describe what is charged, what is a block, what is an illegal use of hands, a hold and a push. And those are those illegal contacts that we are looking when we are refereeing and calling fouls. Then the illegal contact by itself is not a foul. It has to be connected, or it has to be joined with the effect of this illegal contact on the action. So when we are talking about effect, sometimes we try to say, okay, the effect is losing the ball. But now, when can I determine that lost ball? 5 seconds after, 10 seconds after, and then I will call the foul? We cannot work with those like very strict points. So when you're talking about effects, we talk about how the rhythm, speed, balance, and quickness of the player is affected by that illegal contact. And then we can have a clear idea of when we need to call a foul or when that illegal contact is a foul. Also, sometimes the effect of that illegal contact is not that big, but it is a potential way to begin a violent situation or create a fight during the game. For example, use of hands on the body, on the upper body of a player. If you think that's not affect the RSBQ, but the player receiving the contact can in some moment get frustrated and react to that contact, then we can have a personal foul, avoiding to have a reaction, and then we need to call a double foul or any other type of situation. So when we have this match, then we can say that the legal contact plus the effect is a personal foul. And when we have a personal foul, then we need to look for the responsible of that personal foul. And why the responsible? Because sometimes we are like calling the fouls or signaling the fouls on players who are not looking at that moment. So we will be talking about soon. Okay. When we have 3 questions to answer before moving to the next step. The first question is relation between advantage, disadvantage, and the RSBQ. If you know, the rule have one golden article that talks about apply the concept of advantage, disadvantage during the violations and personal or fouls, and do it consistently. But sometimes we, or how can we measure that advantage, disadvantage? So the RSBQ is a good point or a good tool we have to measure that advantage or disadvantage that the person who is receiving the foul is having. So the next question is relation between the visual information and the responsible of the contact. And that's what I have just said. Sometimes we're not looking even at the defense and we call defensive fouls. So if you're calling fouls on a person, we need to know what the person does wrong or did wrong. And then we have more information in case we need to have an explanation. So to move on, the next question for you is what is a marginal contact? So you will have on the poll, what do you think a marginal contact is? You can start answering. What do you think a marginal contact? If it is a legal contact that is incorrectly called as a personal foul, or if it is an illegal contact without effect that doesn't need to be called as a personal foul. So you will have 30 more seconds to answer what do you think a marginal contact is. Okay, we're having some answers. I think 90% of the people, no 80, considers that a marginal contact is an illegal contact without effect that doesn't need to be called as a foul. So I think personally agree with you when we have an illegal contact on the court, but the effect is not big or can be dismissed or disregarded, then we said that that illegal contact is marginal because it didn't have any effect and it might not be called as a foul. Okay, let's move now. We will talk about the cylinder principle.
Yeah, so talking about on the cylinder principle based on the official rules, the rule says that the defensive player may not enter the cylinder of the offensive player with the ball and cause an illegal contact when the offensive player is attempting a normal basketball play within his cylinder. So we can see these examples many times when the defender is getting close to the offensive player and is trying to get into the legs or something like that. So basically, it's based on that. So the next one, the offensive player with the ball must be allowed to enough space for a normal basketball play within his cylinder. The normal basketball play includes starting a dribble, pivoting, shooting, and passing. We'll see a couple of examples forward. And the next one says the offensive player cannot spread his leg and arms outside of his cylinder and cause an illegal contact with the defensive player in order to gain an additional space. So so we have examples right now. Uh, so you can see two pictures on the screen, uh, and also you have a questions on the poll. And according with the pictures, the questions are, or the options are, the offensive option A say the offensive player one and picture one and two are inside their cylinder. The option B, only the offensive player in the picture number two is inside the cylinder. Or option C, only the offensive player in the picture number one is inside the cylinder. So you have the three options on the poll, so you can choose one of them. We'll explain these examples after this. And well, basically we have the 100% on the option B. Okay, so explaining, or well, now we have a couple of them.
Let's move back.
60%. Yeah. Okay, good. So most of the people thinks that number two. Okay, so based on the picture number one, we have example of the number player green number 12 with the contact in the elbow. So the question is, who's responsible for this contact? And detailing this image, you'll see a red, a red cylinder who explains what's the for rights of the offensive player. His cylinder is based on the court, and the circle points the elbow where the contact is created. So the questions now is the offensive player making a normal basketball action within his cylinder? Their answer is no. And is there an illegal contact with potential to have an effect? Yes. So it doesn't mean because he's extending the elbow, so we need to go with a unsportsmanlike foul or an ejection. So everything depends the consequence, and who will be responsible for of the contact. The answer is the offensive player is extending himself with the elbow and creating a illegal contact with the defender, and he's 100% responsible of this contact. If this contact could be an unsportsmanlike foul or And disqualification, we don't know. We're not talking about that. Just that the offensive player create that contact, is looking for creating that illegal space with his elbow. If you have any questions about this, you can type the questions on the chat. The image number two, we have something kind of similar, but it doesn't. It is not the same. So we have the player like in a post play spinning through the basket, and we have the contact close to the elbow in the arm, and now we have the same thing. So we have the cylinder in red, and then we have the contact. So the question here is the offensive player making a normal basketball action within his cylinder? And the answer is yes. So sometimes this type of actions confuse a little bit the judgment of the people, because sometimes it is something like looks weird on the court. It doesn't look good. But the truth is that the offensive player is just moving in his space in the cylinder by that he has by rights. So is there an illegal contact with the potential to have an effect? So we have a contact, but this contact is not illegal by the offensive player. It could be also a defensive foul, and sometimes the player complains about this, but this is the truth. Who will be responsible of this contact? The defensive player. So why the defensive player is guilty about, or responsible for this contact, is because he's getting too close. He's not giving any space to the offensive player to move for free in the court. Also, well, if you have any questions about this, you can type on the chat also. So Julio, any questions now? We good?
No, we're good. No questions so far.
Okay, great. Okay, so moving to the legal guarding position, based on the rules, says that if a defensive player has established an initial legal guarding position when he's facing his opponent and he has both feet on the floor, he may raise his arms and hands above his head and jump vertically, but he must maintain them in a vertical position inside the imaginary cylinder in order to keep its illegal guarding position. So we have a couple of examples right now, or so we will detail this on the, you'll see on the next examples and videos that we have.
Okay, I think, remember, you have any questions so far, you can start writing and we can be answering through the session. We do not need to wait until the end. So now, we will be talking about the principle of verticality. We talk the cylinder and how that cylinder comes to the verticality, and we split this principle in 3 points to be considered when we call or when we are judged. We have judgment on verticality plays. The first principle is that a legal guarding position is made by the defensive player before the offensive player jumps or gets airborne. So if the defense comes and establishes a legal guarding position before the offensive player jumps, then he is or is vertical by the principle of verticality. We have this example. We have the offensive player starting his upward motion. So the defensive, to be legal, he needs to be on his spot before the offensive player jumps. And after, we will talk about that it's not too easy to watch at the same time when the offensive jumps and if while he's jumping, the defensive still moving. So here the angle is very important to have both players in a same field of vision to watch both those things at the time. Then when he's established in front of the offensive player, he can jump vertical. As Omar said, if he want to maintain his legal guarding position, he can jump vertical. So he doesn't need to jump before the offensive player jumps. He can jump after, but he needs to be on that legal guarding position before the jump of the offensive player. So we have in this case, when we are talking about jumping vertical, is that he's jumping upward. He's not moving to the front or to the left or to the right. He can move also backwards, but never in the direction of the offensive player. And the third point is that after this defender jump vertical, he needs to remain or maintain his vertical position. So he is in legal guarded position, he jumps upward, and then he maintains his verticality in the air. And when can he have any issue with this is when he turns his body and the contact is not created on the torso, it's created on the side of his body, or if he moves his hands or his arms down outside his cylinder to create a contact with the offensive player. So now we will watch first we will watch the sample of this picture, and then we will watch some videos for you through the poll determine if you think that the player is vertical or not. So the first video, we'll put it right here. So we're talking about the 3 steps or the 3 points of the principle. The first one, legal guarding position before the shooter's going airborne. The second one is to jump vertical or completely upwards. And the third one is if he remains vertical after he jumps. So we have the picture again. We have here jumping vertical, maintaining vertical, then for sure a contact occurs. Or basketball is that, a game of contact, but we are watching or trying to identify illegal contacts, effect of that illegal contact, and then who's responsible for that contact. So after we watch this example, we have that the defensive established the legal guarding position before the opponent jump. He jumped vertical and he stays vertical after that jump. So now we will watch some clips in which the question, you will watch the clip twice and you will have the poll in your chat area, and you need to answer if you think that the defender does respect the verticality and is not responsible, or if the defender does not respect the verticality and is responsible. And have this point clear. We are talking about who's responsible of the contact. We are not talking about if a foul needs to be called or a foul doesn't need to be called. We are only identified who is not, if the defender is not respecting the principle of verticality, so he might be the responsible of the legal action. So let's watch the video number 2. We'll watch again. Okay, let's be writing on the poll. You can give your answers while let's continue answering. I think to watch the video, remember the 3 points: legal guarding position before, jump vertical, and stays vertical. So let's watch the video again. Let's watch this video number 3. So watching here, we have first the player on the floor is on a legal guarding position before the offensive player jump. Why? Because he established and then he's moving backwards to maintain the legal guarding position, as Omar says before. The second is that in this case, he's jumping backwards. So he can jump vertical upwards or jump backwards, but never to the front to create a contact with the offensive player. And last one, after he jumped, he maintained the verticality in the air. So we can resume, or we can summarize that he, the first, established the legal guarding position, then jump backwards, legally doing, and then maintaining the verticality. So I think the poll, 75% of the people agree, talking about he respect the principle. And now talking about the effect, because it's also important. It was not on the poll, but we can talk it now. When we are talking about effect, first we got the legal contact, then we want to watch the effect on the player who is receiving that illegal contact. And if we have the defense defending legally, and the effect is charging on him, throwing to the floor with any possibility to still defending or to go to the rebound, then we can say that it has an effect and a foul needs to be called. In this case, referee determined the responsible was the offense, so he called an offensive foul. So as we watched legal guarding position before, defender jumps backwards and he remains the vertical position after he jumps. Remember, you can still write in your questions on the poll, on the chat to be answered while we are having the session. Next one, we will have the next question, next video number 4, with the same options. If the defender respects the principle and is not responsible of the contact, or if he didn't respect and is responsible for the contact. So you can start answering while I'm watching. I think we got a question. I will first explain this one and then going back to the question about the no charge to miss circle in the previous action. So we got on the poll, what do we have from the people? At 25%, 20% now talking about the defender didn't respect the principle of verticality, and the 81% that he did. So let's watch video of this play. So the first thing is if he had a legal guarding position before the contact or before the player goes airborne. The second, if he jumped vertical, and the third, if he remains that verticality. And in this example, when we talk about jumping vertical, this is the case in which the defensive player jumps from a point A to a point B. So he was here facing, he was first facing the opponent here, legal guarding position, but then he decided to jump to his left and creating contact on an offensive player who is trying to avoid that contact. So when we talk about the this video, we can presume that the defender established a legal guarding position before the offensive jump, but he didn't jump vertical. He jumped from a point A to a point B. And also he turns his body to create that contact. So in this case, he might be the responsible of the contact, and as it has an effect, it has to be, or it needs to be called as a personal foul on the defense. We have a question about in the previous video, no charge semicircle. Let's have the flip again, flip number 3. And look if the player is inside the no charge semicircle. Look, in this case, he's not inside the no charge semicircle, so he's defending legally in a position in front, and then he received the charge. So we will be talking in other situations more about the no charge semicircle with other videos. So in this case, he was outside when the contact occurs. Now we will go to our third question. Remember the same options for you. Watch the video twice and decide if the defender respect the principle and is not responsible, or if he didn't and is the responsible of the contact. Video 6. Remember, you can begin answering. Action. We will repeat one more time because it's a quick video, so you will have another time to watch. And remember, in the game you have once. Here we're practicing. We're having 3 times. Okay, you can continue answering while I am searching the answer here. Okay, the question is, remember 3 points. Legal guarding position before the player going airborne, jump vertical, stays vertical. And in this case, he's repeating legal guarding position, facing. Then when we watch the action, he jumps vertical, he jumps upwards. But at the end, and just before the contact, he turns his body and receives the contact in his side. So in this case, the third point, as we talk about, we can watch jumping vertical, but then turning his body and creating a contact. So we have in the summary here, as what I said, and to conclude this principle of verticality, remember that we need to have a big picture mentality. We will talk about that at the end, but now trying to watch what's obvious for everybody and not small movements that can say, oh no, he's not jumping vertical, he's jumping a bit to the front. So just always try to have a big picture view to be consistent with the people on the court. Okay, those Omar's. Let's
Okay.
Here.
Okay, so moving to guarding a player who does not control the ball. So we have a couple of principles right here. So the rule says a player who doesn't control the ball is entitled to move freely on the playing court and take any position not already occupied by another player. So when guarding a player who does not control the ball, the elements of time and distance shall apply. A defensive player cannot take a position so near and or so quickly in the path of a moving opponent with that later does not have sufficient time and distance either to stop or change his direction. So basically, remember when a player who does not control the ball, remember always the element of time and distance. Uh, so we have a video right now. Well, so we have questions based on the video that we'll be playing right now. So we have two options right here. It is option A: the defender does not respect the elements of time distance to guard a player who does not control the ball and is not responsible for the illegal contact. And the option B: the defender does not respect the elements and he's responsible for the illegal contact. So just wait for the video before you can answer. Once again. Okay, so you can answer now. Whatever you think, the defender does respect the elements and he's not responsible and does not respect the elements. Okay, so we have 84% on defender does not respect the element and he's responsible for the illegal contact. 21% on the defender was legal and he's not responsible for the contact. So see now, number 13 in blue, going for the rebound. And then we have the call. You can see the defender is not respecting the time and distance, and he's in still in movement at the moment of the contact, and the contact is with the shoulder of the defensive player, white number 6 on blue 13. So in this case, the option B was the right one. The defender does not respect the elements of time and distance, and he's responsible for the illegal contact. If you have any questions, just type right here. So we have a question right here. Mohammed is asking, can you discuss in simply the elements of time and space between the offensive and the defensive? As the rule says, a defensive player cannot take a position so near and or so quickly in the path of a moving opponent that the later does not have sufficient time or distance either to stop or change his direction. So basically, so you as a defender, you cannot get so close or so quickly with the offensive player that you are impeding him to moving further in the court. So based on this example, and number 13 blue is going for the rebound. So we have a potential rebound situation, and then we have number 13 blue, who is the offensive player, going to the basket, and then we have the white player number 6 going into his path to impeding him to have the opportunity to get the rebound. Okay.
We have a question here, says, if a defensive player is illegal guarding position and the offensive player contacted the defensive player, who is responsible, I think, and having the next video, you will have the question.
So basically, for the next video, we have the same activity. We got two options. Oh, going back. This is for the last video, right?
Yes.
Okay. So basically, as you saw in the video, so the defender does not respect the time and distance. He's still in movement, and the contact was with the shoulder, but it doesn't mean so we cannot judge only the contact with the elbow. We have more points to analyze. That is, the defender is still in movement and he's not in a legal guarding position. That take us to uh, resume that that contact with the elbow was illegal. So we got one more video, and this video is gonna be more simple for everybody to understand this point. And basically, we have the same activity. We got two options here. Option A, defender respect the elements, the time of distance, and he's not responsible for the illegal contact or for the contact. And the defender, option B, the defender doesn't not respect the element and he's responsible for the illegal contact. So let's see.
Sacando el aro como el día de ayer, también es verdad.
Falta de ataque.
Ataque.
Ahí está pidiendo explicaciones.
So based on this video,
Facundo Campazo,
I ask you guys to analyze
Lleva desde antes
who's
metido
legal
de
and who's
Kevin
not
Pangos, y
legal
así
in this
seguirá.
situation.
Por eso creo que también
Again. So we had a contact.
El aro como el día de ayer, también es verdad.
falta de ataque.
Ataque.
ahí está pidiendo explicaciones Kevin Pangos. Facundo Campazo se inventó esta.
Lleva desde antes metido debajo de Kevin Pangos y así seguirá. Por eso creo que también.
So if you compare with both videos, you can now tell me what's the difference. In the first video, the defensive is going to the offensive player, creating a contact. And now this is opposite. Offensive player is going to the body, the defensive player.
Falta de ataque.
Ataque.
Ahí está pidiendo explicaciones Kevin Pangos. Facundo Campazo se inventó esta.
Lleva desde antes metido debajo de Kevin Pangos y así seguirá. Por eso creo que también.
Okay. Go. Defender is in a legal guarding position, facing his opponent and giving him some space and distance required to guard a player without the control of the ball. And then after that,
como el día de ayer, también es verdad.
Falta de ataque.
Ataque.
we had a contact.
Ahí está
So,
pidiendo explicaciones Kevin
these
Pangos.
are the facts that we need to bring
Facundo Campazo.
at the end of the play to call the situation. If you see the defender remains in stationary and at the moment of the contact, and the contact occurs in the torso of the defender.
Se inventó.
That's an offensive foul. It's a personal foul on the offensive team. So, as a resume, we got a defender who has established a legal guarding position, facing the opponent and respecting the time and the distance. Also, the defender remains stationary and the contact was straight in the torso of the defensive player. So, as you can see in both examples, the difference here is that in the first video, the defender is not respecting the time and distance. He's not in a legal guarding position, and he's going in motion. He's still moving straight to the body of the offensive player or of his opponent. And these facts are the points that we take in place to call properly this play. And the second video, we got completely the opposite situation. We got defender stationary. He's facing the offensive player or his opponent. He's not moving. He's in a legal guarding position, and the defender and the offensive player who's making the decision to go straight to the torso of the defensive player, and then we have the situation. So it doesn't mean just with the elbow. It doesn't mean just I create a contact with the arm. It is all the facts that we need to have at the end of the play.
Here we have a question about verticality. It says you will talk about the next rule, but the rule talks about the defender turning inside his principle to prevent injury, and that's true. Omar will talk about that article soon, but going back to verticality, is that movement is the one who creates the contact, then he is not legally vertical at the moment of the contact. So if he got the contact and then he turns a bit to avoid any injury after that contact, then he got the contact legally. It might be a charge or not, and then he did it to avoid the injury. So that's like the point to watch, where the contact is created, and if he's turning right to avoid an injury or to create a contact with the side of his body. So we move. Yeah.
Okay, so now moving forward on guarding a player who controls the ball. Based on the rule, again, we got when guarding a player who controls the ball, the elements of time and distance do not apply. When judging a charge block situation involving a player with the ball, a referee shall use the following principles. The defensive player must establish an initial legal guarding position by facing the player with the ball and having both feet on the floor. Second, the defensive player may remain stationary, jump vertically, move laterally or backwards in order to maintain the initial legal guarding position. Third, when moving to maintain the initial legal guarding position, one foot or both feet may be off the floor for an instant, as long as the movement is lateral or backwards, but not towards the player, not towards to the player with the ball. Fourth, contact must occur in the torso, in which case the defensive player will be considered as having been at the place of the contact first. And fifth, having established a legal guarding position, the defensive player may turn within his cylinder to avoid an injury. Only in any of the above situations, the contact shall be considered as having been caused by the player with the ball. So just remember, elements of time and distance do not apply. This is the key point right here. And we have a couple of examples right now, and we have the same activity for these examples. And we have two options.
We have a question here. I will say, if a defensive player is in a legal guarding position and the offensive player didn't see the defender and makes an illegal contact, who's responsible? Omar, can you talk about that? Having in consideration if that offensive has the ball or if he has not the ball, because it's some different.
It means without player, if the offensive player didn't see, it means without the ball, right?
Can you answer both? So I think he didn't write
Okay.
special.
So in the case that the player do not have the ball, remember the rule says, if we can go backwards a little bit to the last page, it says a defensive okay, a player in the first paragraph, it says a player who does not control the ball is entitled to move freely on the court, on the playing court, and take any position not already occupied by any another player. So in this case, if that place is already taken for another player on the court, and I'm not seeing him, so I'm responsible for going to that spot that is already occupied by any player. So yes, without the ball, yeah. So without the ball, if I'm running on the court and I'm not looking the defensive player who is in a place, in a spot on the court, and I going through him without seeing him, it is my responsibility of that contact. It doesn't mean that. Example, we have a lot of situations when we have a screen on the top of the key, on the top of the 3-point line, and the defender is not looking. The defender is not looking the screener, and it doesn't mean that it's illegal at all, right? That's a point on when a player does not control the ball. Let's going back to the video number 12, and you'll see a couple of examples. We have the same activity. The defender does establish and maintain a legal guarding position to defend a player who controls the ball and is not responsible for the illegal contact. Option B, the defender does not establish and maintain a legal guarding position, and he's responsible for the illegal contact. So let's see. Again. Okay, so we have block chart situation with a player with the ball, between a player with the ball and the defender. So the question here is, the defender was in a legal guarding position, establishing without moving and with both legs on the floor. So we have the video right now. Well, sorry, we have the poll. I forget. The defender. So 100% of the people here say the defender does establish and maintain a legal guarding position. So they say that's an offensive foul as well. This is the exact situation I asked, but he's with the ball. Okay, so we have the answer right now. So the play with the ball, remember, time and distance do not apply, and the player is on the floor. He should expect to be guarded and be prepared to move up.
That's
Okay. Okay. Just the offensive player he already dribbled the ball, and he should be prepared to change the direction if the defender gets in a legal guarding position in front of him. So in this case, the defender was in a legal guarding position. He had both feet on the floor. And basically, this is the key point right here. Defender established a legal guarding position facing the opponent and is stationary, and the contact is in the torso, and this is an offensive foul of player red 9. So the facts that we need to bring to the table right here is the defender has in a legal guarding position. He was stationary, both feet on the floor, yes or no. So here we go. Defender established a legal guarding position facing his opponent. The defender remains stationary, and the contact was straight in the torso. That's why this is an offensive foul. So second option, if any of you have any question as well, you can type on the chat. So next video, video number 14, we had basically the same activity. Option A, the defender established and maintain a legal guarding position and is not responsible for the illegal contact. And option B, the defender does not establish and maintain a legal guarding position and he's responsible 100% for the illegal contact. So let's see.
Tamamen dış atışlara kaldığımız bir anda
İçeri kat etti Nando De Colo.
basket faul olmadı ya.
İki serbest atış gelecek Nando De Colo'dan. Harika kat etti içeriye. Nando De Colo.
Soluk aslında çok iyi bir zamanla. Bugün oyuncuları özgür bırakmış Obradovic. Ve o enerji, o özgürlük oyuncuların birbirlerinin
Okay.
tamamen dış atışlara kaldığımız bir anda
İçeri kat etti Nando De Colo.
basket faul olmadı ya.
İki serbest atış gelecek Nando De Colo'dan. Harika kat etti içeriye. Nando De Colo.
Soluk aslında çok iyi bir zamanla. Bugün oyuncuları özgür bırakmış Obradovic. Ve o enerji, o özgürlük oyuncuların birbirlerinin
So just remember the facts that we need on the table right now is or if the defender is in a legal guarding position, he was stationary or not. So let's see the answers. So we have 100% until now the defender does not establish and maintain a legal guarding position, and he's 100% responsible for the illegal contact. So it looks like anyone has.
I think not many people are answering the poll. It's not common to have a block charge 100%, but sometimes. Okay, let's watch here.
tamamen dış atışlara kaldığımız bir anda
İçeri kat etti Nando De Colo.
basket faul olmadı ya.
İki serbest atış gelecek Nando De Colo'dan. Harika kat etti içeriye. Nando De Colo.
Soluk aslında çok iyi bir zamanla. Bugün oyuncuları özgür bırakmış Obradovic. Ve o enerji, o özgürlük
Okay, so here you can see that the defender does not establish a legal guarding position facing the opponent. He's still in movement at the moment of the contact, and the contact is not right in the torso of the defender. So basically, these three are the facts that we need every time that we are on the court to call it properly. Not a legal guarding position, not a stationary. Contact is not on the torso. So at the end, these points tell us that this is that the defender is 100% responsible of this contact. So,
Any question? If you have any question, remember you can write it on the chat. Okay, we move on. We have talked until now about concepts that we need to know, so when we visualize that play on the court, we can make a decision based on those concepts. But now the question is, how am I, as a referee on the court, am ready to watch properly the action? Because as we did in the Spanish session, and now in this session, In most of the video, we all agree. But the point is not agreeing here watching the video. The point is agreeing on the court and taking the best decision as we can. So the first thing is action on the court. The action occurs, and then we visualize the information. We have a visual information. So it is the most important thing is to watch the action properly. So then the rest of the process can come in a better or in a more efficient way. To visualize information, we use the IoTs and we use the mechanics. Then when we watch that picture or that action in our mind, we combine the knowledge and the experience to visualize and have a decision to call or not call. But it's still a decision. Sometimes we think that not calling are not decisions, they are. But if we don't call because we don't see, then it's not a decision, then it's also a guess. Then, as we have this procedure as strong as we can, then we can maintain the consistency in every action of the game. For sure, sometimes we will have mistakes, but we need those mistakes not to be as most or not be consistent on the mistakes. During this session, let's watch this here. We will talk about IoTs, in which is referee the defense as a key to keep that consistency, watching properly the plays. The mechanics, we will talk in another session how we join the two or the three referees in a system to visualize all the actions by the mechanics. And then the visualization process for us with the concepts to take good decisions. Let's move on. We have decision, call or not call, to be consistent. Then, referee the defense. We are trying to keep the consistency. We are looking for illegal actions. Remember, illegal actions are the one we are looking for. Focus on the defense. And why? Because most of the time, when we got games, if we have 100 fouls, 100% of fouls, mostly the 90% are defensive fouls. So if we are penalizing 90% of the defense, we need to have a look or more focus on that defense. Keep the offensive player inside the field of view for possible illegal actions. So we have offensive player that now with their cylinder, they can make illegal actions. So we don't need to move them completely outside of our focus. Also, they can commit violations. So it is always important to be on an angle in which we can see both. And the last one, be ready for the early offense. Sometimes we talk about being from trail to lead in 4 seconds, but we are not talking about lead to trail. If we are moving from lead to trail, we need to trail the play. But if there are quick passes to the front court, then we need to be quick on the front court to be ready to referee those plays in the first seconds of the shot clock. The speed of the game is reduced when we pick up the next defender on time. If we are always behind, if the play begins and then we start watching, we will be always behind the play. So it won't be that easy to call properly the contact situation. So we'll talk during the video why it's important to pick up that defender on time. Referee, we have those steps. Create space before the beginning of the action. Anticipate using the philosophy of the game, watching clips, scouting the players. Eyes on the offensive player foot to see if he trouble or not to begin his movement. If you have a trouble, then we don't have to go further with any other action. Look the defender. If he established and maintain the legal guarding position, so we watch the foot of the offensive and we move on to the defender. A judgment or movement to adjust to the play depending on how it develops. We have, if the defender keeps involved, stay with him, and if the defender leaves the action, then look for the next defender. How we will join this with the mechanics, we will watch it on a further session. When we talk about referee the defense, we have this diagram was explained by Mr. Jose Carrion in a previous session. The charge block situations are usually on this gray area. It's not very easy to have white and black calls in which the 100% of the referees will say 100% block or 100% white. There's always a room for different judgment by the people because of the amount of principles we are using to call them. So always a person can watch one thing, if he established, if he was vertical, if he moved forward, if he moved backwards. And this is why these calls are mainly on this gray area. But what can we do when we have these types of call in this gray area? First, we need to use the common sense. What is the common sense? Is to call what everybody can see and understand. And why we talk about that? Because if we are the only person on the playing court that watched something, then maybe it's not the right thing to call it. If everybody's watching, then the player is stationary, and you watch that he moved a bit, 1 centimeter, 5 centimeters to the front, and that's why you call the block, then it might not be on the same sense of the players, coaches, and the fans, and everybody around you. So try to call in these situations, charge and block, applying the principle, watching the defender on time, but calling something everybody can see and everybody can understand. And the second quote we have here, it says, if you need to watch the video with 0.01 speed to see if a player moved, then he didn't move, because that's not where we are looking. We are not using this loop to watch if we are right. We are calling things that everybody can see on the court, not after on the video with the slow. So don't think that if you discover that speed in which you are right, and you need to change that chip, because then on the next game you will still, or I will not say you, I will say we, because I'm a referee and sometimes it happens to everybody. We will be having the same mistakes if we don't have that big picture mentality. So this is the focus on when we talk about charge and block on this gray area. Okay, we are having some clips before we finish. I will explain two, and then Omar we explain the last two clips. I'll put this one. Any question on the chat, please? Okay, we have a player received the ball in my primary area. First thing, watch the feed to see if she began legal or illegal his movement. The second, then we can watch the defender after we decide that the movement was legal. So follow this step. Why? Because then if we miss a violation of traveling or any other violation to begin the movement, then what we need to have? Let's watch. The player was stationary when she received the ball, so step 0 doesn't apply. Then she steps off the pivot before releasing the ball from his hand when she was closely guarded. And then we're having a contact situation right just after that violation. So if we skip or if we miss the violation, then we need to judge a block charge situation who is more difficult. Sometimes there's a anonymous stat that says that 80% of the time we miss a travel, then it will come or a personal foul or a basket or something that we will regret on not watching that feed. So make it part of yourself, make it part of your basics. We don't need to be on a big stage to practice this. Any game you have, a player received the ball in your primary, watch the feed and then the defender. Remember, any question on the shot. Now we're moving to the second clip about how can we improve that refereeing the defense to apply the concept we have just taught. Let's watch. Oh, I had been talking. Sorry. I think I was mute. Now I'm here. Okay, sorry for that. Let's come back. Now you can hear me. Okay, first question: if the offensive player seems to have a clear path with the basket, and some mistake we do as a referee is to follow that player through all his movement instead of watching who can guard him. Then we can make the next question. The first defender will remain connected, yes or no? Who is white number 12? And who is responsible for that guy? We will talk about in mechanics, but for now, as we have the trail referring him up here, he is responsible to have him through all the movement to the basket. The second, usually, from where does the second defender comes from? And this is a question that we can answer ourselves watching games, watching clips, and is that they usually comes from the paint because it's where they are on the other side and they try to help on the strong side where the ball is. So if I know, or I usually know that that second defender will come from the paint, I need to identify who will be. And if I take him on time, it will allow me to evaluate if he's established and then maintain the legal guarding position previous to the content. So let's here, player is here. I don't have any need to watch the offense. I need to watch who will be the next defender to step between that offensive player and the rim. So let's watch what continues. So as quick as I got the defender, it will be better for me to judge properly the action. Then the player continues. Trail referee continues with the first defender, and the lead referee goes to the second defender who's coming from the paint and is on his primary area. Question: if he established a legal guarding position before, if he jumped vertical, and if he maintained that verticality, then that defender is not responsible for that contact. And this is crucial when calling fouls, because sometimes when we watch these big crashes on the air and people going to the floor, we used to call defensive foul because most of the time we don't watch what that defender was doing before the contact itself. So let's have this in mind, thinking about where I'm looking, who's coming to defend, and how early I pick up him. Offensive foul or marginal contact. Offensive foul or marginal contact. We will determine during the game if that needs to be called a charge, or if we can talk or we can consider it's a marginal contact. So we have a question here. Okay, they were talking about the audio. I think I fixed it. It's related to the movement of the referee, so we will watch those two videos to talk about the movement. Now we're talking about referee the defense, so make all the questions based on angles, possible spots, and all this to watch properly the action. In this, we have this play. Let's watch it from here. We got the trail referee coming with the play. The ball first seems to go opposite, so maybe he's being ready to rotate, but then the ball comes to his primary. And as he's stationary on a position to watch the feet and to watch the defender, he is in a good position to referee the play in this case. So that was the question, position of the trail referee. Another recommendation is, remember, for us, the first is the play and the second the mechanic. And sometimes, and this is a good example to talk, when the ball starts to come into the center side and the lead starts to close down, sometimes the trails start to move to the new center position. So it is important that if the trail recognizes that the play is coming back to him, then he needs to stop and referee the play instead of continue walking to the center position. So distant and stationary is one of the IoT. We will have a complete session for that, but it's important for you to understand, to referee, I need to be stationary and have the play first and the mechanic second. In this second, we have lead referee, ball is going to the center side, and then the rotation begins right before the drive to the basket. So it could be earlier. It would be better if it could be earlier. Maybe not now, not now. Ball comes to the center side, maybe now. So he can be in the position to referee from the beginning of the play and not receiving just the end. So again, talking about mechanics, how important is to rotate on time, so then we can referee properly the next play on my new position. So if you have any other question, please write on the chat and we will move forward to the third play. Watch. Do you want to speak something before putting the clip, or just play it?
Play. So just remember to see the whole play before making any decision. So just remember that the points that we need to see on this play is if the semicircle applies or not. In this case, the defender is establishing a legal guarding position in this case, or the defender is inside or outside the no charge semicircle. So defender is in the semicircle area, yes, and the defender is establishing a legal guarding position. The answer is yes. So player before, oh, sorry, this was before the player jumps and grabs the ball, and then you see before the jump, the defender is already establishing a legal guarding position. He's inside of the semicircle area. So what's my other? And also, at the moment of the contact, you can see the defender is maintaining his legal guard position. And in this case, the semicircle the semicircle rule do not apply in this situation. Why? Because for the semicircle rule applies, we need to have the offensive player airborne going through the basket. In this case, we have the defender establishing a legal guarding position over the semicircle lines or area, and we have the offensive player right in the floor. So in this case, the semicircle rule does not apply, and then we call this play as a block charge 100% situation. In this case, this is an offensive foul. If you have any questions about this, just please type it on the chat. On the Spanish session, the question, especially not on the block charge situation, was on the semicircle rule, and of course, this was on really complainant situation in that moment. Why? Because all the people realize that the player, just because he's inside of the semicircle area, this is a non-call. And the truth is that the defender is, of course, yes, with both feet on the semicircle area, but the offensive player is not airborne through the basket. And this is why we call it as a block charge situation. In this case, it's an offensive foul. Any question? Just please type it on the chat if you have it. You receive the ball.
What can you talk about that point on the offensive player just to jump and the defensive player just to arrive in the legal guarding position in terms of the position of the referee to watch both things and the big picture to don't look for small things?
Yeah, so I think the key point in this type of plays is to having the whole movie, right? So we need to know, because sometimes we as a referees, we are just watching what is around the ball. But in this case, we have a secondary defender who is establishing a legal guarding position on the paint, doesn't matter where. So the point here is that we need to be aware of what is going on around, and we need to be one step forward of what is gonna happen. Because in this case, if we go a little bit backwards in the video at the time of the screen, of course, when we play from the beginning, so just stop at the time of the screen right now. So you see, so this is a dual coverage or dual responsibility play. Why? Because we have a lot of players involved in the same spot. So we as a referee, we need to create that space enough to change our refereeing or to change the point that we are watching in that moment. Of course, the playing zone in that moment is right on the wing of the 3-point line, and then it changes right to the paint. So the point right here is that if we are not enough wired on the baseline at the time that we have the pick and roll, so we need to turn or face. So in this case, it is really, really important that we need to know and we need to understand that we need to create that space. That at the time we have this type of situations, we need to move. So it's not necessary to move all our body to referee the play. And this is one of the key points that we as a referee we are making these small details mistakes that sometimes we don't know why I didn't call it right, why I miss it. And this is because our mechanics or body language it needs to be ready for every stage of the play. And the last one is we have a play kind of similar of one of those that we played before. So we have a transition. We got the referee on the baseline. We have a drive to the basket, and then we have a non-call. After that, we have a complaint of the blue team coach, and we have a technical foul. So the question here is why we didn't have any call. The offensive player begins to move into the basket, usually from where does the defender come from and where am I looking as a referee? And this is what I'm saying before. So are we ready to referee the play or just we are in the spot but we are not refereeing the play? So at this time, if we see the transition of the new lead referee is like too slow, so he's not too ready to referee that play. So at the time of the contact, we are lost and we don't know what exactly is going on. You see? It's like watching the floor, it's like not ready, then we have the drive to the basket and someone is missing something. See? The defender is coming from the trail. We have an extension, so we have an extended coverage from the trail. In the case the trail is not able to help, we can have some help from the center of the lead. So the defender is not establishing a legal guarding position. The 100% responsible for this contact is the defensive, and then we have a personal foul. This is not a marginal contact. So all these facts are the fact that we need to have every time that we have a play, and this is gonna be all the game. Where the playing is coming from, what can I do to help my partners, and if the defender is in a legal guarding position, he's facing the opponent, and also who's responsible for this contact. And sometimes these type of situations create a lot of controversy between the people and the players. Why? Because sometimes what we are looking are like lying to us, right? It's like we are looking something that is not true. It's like this is just the perception of the eye. So at the end, all these small details help us a lot to judge the play properly.
Before coming to the questions, we will make an invitation and a homework. I have a homework for you that if you like the sessions, if you think they are good, then share it with more people. So if you're referees, remember that we all progress together. We always referee with teammates. We always referee with colleagues. So if we can all learn what you think is good together, it will be better to when you are in a country that the basketball is stopped, then we can come back stronger. So next week, we will have on same time, next Thursday, the session, our 6th session about scouting, ready but without prejudice. So is how we are preparing ourselves to any game we have at any level we can have. So you can start making your questions on the chat. If you want to make a question online, you can click on the speak or asking to speak button so you can join and make your question. We have here one: in transition, trail has to be new lead position in 4 seconds, right? Yes, that's the number or the reference number we got on the mechanics, just to sprint straight to the baseline with no curl, just a straight line, and be ready to face the court. So it's around 3 seconds. Somebody, I think Omar, goes in less than 3 seconds, but it's just a reference. And when I talk about it, it was to, if we are having that reference, also if we're on the lead and we're moving to the trail, for sure we need to trail the play. But if the play goes fast, quick passes and quick shots, we need also to be fast. Sometimes we are like waiting for the 10 players to go to the front court and then go to the front court. No, if something can happen, we can, if 2 players of different teams remains and it can have a problem, then we stay, but if not, we go forward to referee in the early offense. Any question, any request to speak, we will have some minutes. I think we have answered all the questions through the session. So if anything comes
Something to add to the trail or the new lead transition. Of course, the reference is 4 seconds, but the most important thing is just be before the play. So don't be at the time, don't be so weak. So just run, be before the play. So be on the spot before them and be ready to watch the whole play stationary. Of course, it could be 3 seconds, it could be 2 seconds, it could be 6 seconds, but just be before them. It doesn't mean just because it says 4 seconds, you always gotta be in 4 seconds. No, it means that you need to be, or the purpose of these 4 seconds reference is just to be before. Be stationary and referee stationary, and this is the key, because if not, we are running and watching like this.
Any question? You stay, please write something. Any comment? Any participation? We have here. How many sessions do we need to complete to have a shirt from 2024? I think we will have a shopping center. In the future, for sure, you will have the opportunity and you will receive worldwide. So just, it's coming. We can say that it's coming. When you share the link, remember also sharing with players and coaches. Maybe the time it's fixed, or maybe they can watch the replay, but they need to be subscribed. So, and also when you receive the replay mail, if you want to watch it again, you can do it through the link in YouTube, but please do not post it on the social media. Just watch by yourself, and if you know somebody, just share with him the registration form so they can be subscribed and receive directly.
I cannot hear you.
Oh.
Questions, guys, please. Questions.
So you made through the session, but now we have 5 more minutes. Another thing, we will make a lot of emphasis on big picture common sense. We have situations very close when the feet is just leaving the floor and the defense is just coming to the position. So it needs to be a big movement of the defense forward while the player is airborne, very clear to say he moved, or if he moved to the front, or if he moved in the direction of the shooter. But small movements and we need to watch triple slow-mo, then we are not like being consistent with what everybody is expecting for the play to be called. Another thing, have that active mindset on. If an offensive player is coming to the basket, we are playing 5 against 5, not 1 against 5. So somebody will come to stop him. So instead of watching him coming to the basket, let's try to search who will be the guy who will come to referee him. So as soon as you got him, it will be better to referee the verticality and the legal guarding position. Any other question? You have 3 more minutes. As to speed, I think you might be shy. I was shy years ago. Now I'm talking to you, so you can have that first step here, and then you never know. Or something. No question.
Nothing here. They are so shy today. How many sessions do we need to complete to have a shirt? Like one more.
Okay. Okay, if we don't have much questions, remember next Thursday, same time, scouting with a guest, who is Roberto Vasquez. Maybe most of you know him. He's a top FIBA referee, and he will be giving his opinion about scouting before. So it's not just World Championship with scout, is how in your local league in which you have the same teams, the same players week to week, how can you prepare a scouting to be ready for the game and anticipate the actions as we talk. Okay, from my side, thank you for coming. Omar, do something to say goodbye.
Thank you all for joining us again. And any questions that you have, please text us or send us a message by any of the platforms that we have, and
Here,
videos or anything.
here's a question, the last question. Just confused about the offensive foul from Rubio. Could you summarize why it's an offensive foul?
So at the end, the facts that we have is, first of all, the defender is on the semicircle area. Yes, he's in the semicircle area, but the defensive player for the rule to apply, so we need to have the offensive player airborne going through the basket, and the offensive player is not airborne; he's on the floor. He just fall on the floor, and that's why the offensive the semicircle rule does not apply. And also, if the rule does not apply, we call it as 100% block charge situation. In that moment, he's airborne, but at the time he's falling the floor. After that, he's falling the floor, and then we had a comeback, and that's why we cannot apply the semicircle rule. And basically, I think this is the question, or this is the controversy that we have on this play.
He's asking about time and distance. Remember that a player who's receiving the ball should expect to be guarded. So in this case, if the defender takes the position before he jumps, he is legal in that position. So if he coming back, if he coming down and a crash occur, the offensive is responsible. What will be the case in which it will be defensive foul is in which the offensive jumps and then the defender moves into that position while the offensive player cannot change the direction in the air. But in this case, it doesn't apply that time and distance concept. So I think we answered the question. You were saying goodbye, so you can finish and then we can move on.
Thank you all for joining us. We are hoping to having you again the next week. And please, questions, videos, or anything that you have, please send us a message by any of the platforms or by the email, whatever you want, whatever is easy for you.